Welcome back to 504 Road Trips. Today we're here with fellow road geek all the way from New York, Dan, the man behind the Roadwaywiz YouTube channel. Dan, we've been following your channel for over a year now, and as of today you have 8,036 videos uploaded across two channels dating back almost 8 years. There's no way we'll ever get to see all of them at this point, but how did this all begin?
Well, first of all, Jason, it's great to be here again. Great to see you again. It's great to be back in New Orleans. You know, I had such a great time last year that I felt I had to find a way to get back here at some point on this go-around. And what do you mean you'll never get to see them all again? Just sit down in front of a computer and start watching them. It doesn't take you that long.
Well, I'm getting older and older, and you know, eventually I'm gonna die, and there's just not enough hours in a day to watch 8,036 videos.
Yeah,
that's a lot of videos. I do binge watch them, especially at work when there's downtime, which there hasn't been much of lately. But you know, I do binge watch your videos. But 8,036—that's a lot of videos. That's a lot of watch time.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's even time to record 8,036 videos. But, yeah, so it's 8,036, but that also includes, you know, videos that are unlisted, that are private. In other words, they've been superseded by an updated version of, you know, a corridor that I've traveled over the years. And that also includes my other channel, Roadwaywiz WNY, which is kind of a Western and Northern New York spin-off channel. Really, it goes back to my childhood, really. And when I was growing up, when I was young, I always enjoyed road trips in the car. I credit a lot of my ability as a little kid, you know, to reading road signs and reading, you know, stuff along the way that we encountered. And so I always had certain, you know, trips that I was fond of, and I wanted to kind of bring those into my living room by filming them, you know, coming up with some sort of dash cam system in order to film them and then also be able to relive them to some degree. I had no, you know, notion of starting a YouTube channel at all when I came up with this idea. It was just an idea to kind of put some of my favorite, you know, childhood memories on video, because I didn't have the ability to do that back then. And then the channel idea came along much later, because I was filming videos and I was keeping them on my computer. But what happened was I had a hard drive crash like the summer before. It was like 2009. And I wasn't in a position to invest in another hard drive at that time. And so I was thinking to myself about ways that I could back up what I had filmed, you know, just in case something else happened. And I thought, well, I'll just put them on YouTube. I'll just create a channel. I'll upload them there. They'll be safe there. So in case my computer crashes again, I can just, you know, backwards download them off of YouTube, but back onto my computer. So that's how the channel idea came about. And so I think I just uploaded a bunch there. I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't think anybody would really watch them. And sure enough, people started watching them, and this has turned into a pretty successful enterprise.
Well, it's almost like a whole genre of YouTube video. There's a lot of different people out there doing dash cam type videos, and you know, we're just a couple of those channels. Now, 8 years ago, dash cams just weren't a consumer. It wasn't something that you could just go to the store and buy a dash cam. You know, right. Now you can go to Best Buy and pick up a dash cam. Mm-hmm. So what kind of high-tech equipment are you using to record your videos?
High-tech? Well, I'm using the same high-tech that was available back in 2010, which, as you look back now, is not very high-tech at all. I started using a Kodak ZX1 handheld cam. It's like the size of a flip phone. And I figured out a way to mount that to my dash that, worked, and, it stayed in one place. It didn't, jiggle around too much. So I mastered the idea of mounting it, and it ended up actually recording pretty good video. I had bought it the year before, not for road video dash cam work, but because I was in college at the time, and I was kind of, chronicling some of my experiences around campus. So I had this little handheld thing that I would take around because it was portable. You could put it in your pocket or whatever. And I thought, well, why don't I give this a shot in my car instead of just buying something else? Why don't I see how this works? And so it ended up, I put it in the car one day and worked out pretty well. And I've been using that same model ever since. I think the reason why I stay with the same model all these years later is just the familiarity with it. And it's easy to operate. It's easy to transfer files off of. It uses AA batteries, which obviously are easy to find. So it's a very simple system that I've got, and I've mastered it very early on, and it's worked out pretty well over the years.
And it seems to take, the quality of the video seems to be about the same, if not even better than, what I get out of my little cheap black box dash cam that I use. But I noticed that it's all in 720p. It's not even 1080p, but the clarity of the video is, I watch on a 42-inch television, and, the video clarity is good even at 720p. So, it doesn't, I guess you don't have to have a 4K high-tech $5,000 dash cam to get road trip videos.
Right.
It's just...
Yeah, you're not the first person who has said that, and actually people have said to me that your quality is that a 1080p camera? Because your quality looks amazing. I'm like, no, it's some 8 or 10-year-old model that's out of production and you can't find in stores anymore. Yeah,
it's really amazing that you're still able to use that, and that it still works, after that age, because stuff just isn't designed to last that long. I'm on my 4th dash cam.
Yeah.
They tend to explode in the heat.
Yeah.
And, but I keep buying the same model over and over again, and because it works, I know how it works, and,
Right.
That's always a good idea. Now, I've seen mentioned before that you tape the camera onto the windshield with shipping tape. Is that really what you do?
One of the most frequently asked questions that I get from my viewers or curious onlookers is, well, they see how steady the picture is, how it doesn't move on the dash, and they always ask me, well, how do you mount the camera on your dash? And when I tell them how I do it, they must think I'm kidding at first, because their reaction is usually something along the lines of, oh, really? But it is actually that simple. It is, I just tape it on both the top and the bottom. Remember, it's got the shape of a flip phone. It's got the size of one. So if you kind of imagine setting that on the dash, vertically, and then you just tape it on the top and the bottom. You're taping the top to the windshield, and you're taping the bottom to the dash, and it actually is a pretty simple setup.
Oh, so the camera stands vertical, and it takes horizontal video.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like these people with the smartphones that hold their cameras vertically, and it gets the vertical video, which drives everybody crazy.
Right, yeah.
But well, I guess
the
it's
video
actually
90 degrees.
Well,
no, that's what I'm saying. Like, the video gets... You're watching the video like this.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, how many states have you hit making videos?
By my count, I've been to 25 states, plus the District of Columbia.
That's all documented on your channel?
I will have videos from all 25 of those states.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
The year 2017, I think, was the record breaker in that I visited 7 new states and brought back video from those 7. I think that's easily the most states I've been to in a single year as far as new states are concerned. Obviously, the biggest winner from last year was Louisiana. I had several hundred from that state.
Oh, yeah.
was a very productive year. You know, we did the New Orleans trip from last winter, and then in November I went out to Ohio and that general area. So it was a pretty busy year.
And when you came down here last year, you didn't just do Louisiana. You ran all along the Gulf Coast.
Oh, yeah, I ran all over the place.
You probably hit 5 states right there just on that one trip.
Well, I hit all the Gulf states on that trip.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So out of all of your videos, what's the most heavily traveled area? And I suspect it's going to be your home area of New York, but I may be wrong about that. But we see a lot of videos up in the New York area, but do you have any other area that that you hit a lot other than, you know, around home?
Yeah, the most heavily traveled area I would say is the corridor between like New York City Metro and down into like southeast Pennsylvania and northern Delaware. I have family in northern Delaware that I visit pretty frequently, so I'm always kind of coming up with some kind of video work whenever I travel between those 2 points. I also go on vacations in the summer down on coastal New Jersey. So whenever I go down that way, I tend to bring video stuff back with me. And in fact, a lot of my memorable drives when I was a kid were drives between those two, like either between New York and Delaware, or between New York and coastal New Jersey. So those were some of the first drives I wanted to even put on video to begin with. Mm-hmm. And those were some of the first ones that I filmed and uploaded also.
And I would imagine that since you were a kid that a lot of that has changed, you know, as far as highway alignments and, you know, updated roads and stuff like that. I mean, how different is it now than, you know, from your childhood? Or can you remember that kind of detail?
Yeah, it really hasn't changed a whole lot. I'll give you an example. My favorite highway to drive anywhere is the New Jersey Turnpike. And it's pretty much the same as it was like 20 years ago, with the exception of a big widening project that was done a few years ago. They actually took the existing road and doubled its size. They built extra roadways even. So that project aside, there's really not all that much that's different. You know, the other thing that is in the process of being replaced right now is all the old signage. You know, the New Jersey Turnpike had a very special specification for highway signage. Mm-hmm. And now that everybody is switching over to MUTCD compliant signage, you know, the same cookie cutter stuff you see everywhere else. Right. You know, a lot of that charm of the old signage that was very memorable is going away. So, and I had the chance to film the Turnpike for the first time when all the old signage was still in place. So, it's interesting now to go back, you know, to 2010 and 11 when I first filmed it, you know, and see the difference in the presentation between the old versions and the current versions.
Yeah, because I think most of us are used to seeing those, you know, the MUTCD compliant signs that are just about everywhere and have been for decades now. And I've seen pictures of the old signage on the New Jersey Turnpike, and it's glaringly obvious that they're not like everywhere else.
They're unique.
You know, they're unique. And I've had a few interesting experiences on the New Jersey Turnpike myself, and you know, you know you're on the New Jersey Turnpike when you're on the New Jersey Turnpike. It's not like any other road anywhere that I've ever been.
Right. And all the Eastern Turnpikes in general had their own unique specs also. Like you go to Connecticut or New York or Pennsylvania even, and each state kind of did their own thing as far as signage goes. Yeah,
I haven't been on that many other than I know the New Jersey Turnpike. Mm-hmm. You know, trying to get back and forth from New York City a couple of times. Yeah. You know, we hit that turnpike and got in the wrong lanes, and you know, got in the wrong lanes in a commercial vehicle one time, and you know, tried to drive it through the Holland Tunnel, and that didn't go well.
Anyway.
So I notice you always have the radio on in the background, and talk radio. Obviously, you can't play music because YouTube will get mad at you if you're running music in the background, and
copyright.
People start giving you the copyright strike. So do you listen to talk radio all the time? Are you like a news junkie, or is that just something you do just for background noise?
It's a bit of a few of those things. I do like to keep up on the news stories that are relevant in the city I'm traveling in. I also am really big on history, like American history and that kind of thing. And one of the accidental things that's happened over the years is that I've caught a lot of historical events on radio. In fact, you know about this. June of 2010, when I was filming videos for the first time, what were they leading with up in New York City? It was some story. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it had to do with Deepwater Horizon. And
the blowout. That's about that time.
Yeah, so...
In fact, I was going to New York when that was happening. I was on my way up there I think that was Mardi Gras. I'd gotten away from Mardi Gras to go up to New York City to visit friends.
Yeah, so in retrospect, looking back, it's interesting to see what I kind of, witnessed, through the radio. And one of my other most notable things was in the days after the terrorists bombed the Boston Marathon. Mm-hmm. I actually caught quite a bit of coverage of that. This was 2013, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I caught quite a lot of, commentary and news stories and developments and all that kind of stuff. So it ended up really being an interesting historical tool, just if you're talking just about the radio stuff that I captured.
Oh yeah, and when I watch your videos, I turn the volume up because I'm listening to the radio.
Yeah.
It's especially when you're somewhere other than here.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear what's going on the radio in other places.
But you know what? The most significant part of this, the reason why I picked talk radio, and isn't even because of the copyright violations that you would get from playing like FM music in the background. 2010 was way before I had a smartphone. Mm-hmm. And smartphones, even back then, were nowhere near as good as they are now. We didn't have programs that gave you accurate traffic modeling back then. Mm-hmm. So really, in order to get a picture of what the roads were like, you had to listen to the radio, and you had to find stations that would give you regular traffic updates.
Oh, yeah.
Because... a lot of people, I suppose, might start smaller as far as a city that they would want to, film so that they could get the hang of it. Well, I jumped into the deep end right away. I started with New York City.
Yeah.
And New York is obviously not an easy city to navigate, even on the weekend.
Yeah.
So I felt that I had to rely on traffic reports, because I would draw up itineraries and things like that, but I wanted to make sure that the road ahead was clear, and that if something was up ahead, I would know about it in advance so that I could change my route to something else.
Right, you don't want you don't want 20 minutes of sitting in traffic,
right?
Only going a mile or whatever.
Yeah, so that was really the main motivation behind doing the talk radio in the background, and then it just kind of became habitual after that.
Yeah, and it's a signature. I mean, that's, you can always tell when you're watching a Roadwaywiz video because there's talk radio on.
Yeah, you get to see the road and you get to know what the news of the day is. That's not a bad combination.
Yep. So you focus a lot on bridges throughout your videos, everywhere you go, and last year we did a bridge special, with the bridges across the Mississippi River throughout Louisiana. And I know that your job involves building bridges. What can you tell us about what you do for a living, what you do on a day-to-day basis involving bridges?
Well, first of all, I'll just add to that we might possibly have another video coming up in the not-too-distant future. So you guys out there will have to pay attention and keep an eye out for that video. That's what you call a teaser.
Yeah.
My profession... Hey, why don't you hit that gas a little harder, will ya? Jeez. I don't drive that fast when I'm on the service road, by the way. Well, my profession is bridge related. I'm an engineer, and I actually lucked into one of the coolest jobs a bridge engineer could have. In 2013, I joined the team for the Tappan Zee Bridge Replacement Project. This is a $4 billion contract along Interstate 87 north of New York City. And for the last 4 going on 5 years, I've been on that job. I've really been a big part of the engineering team behind it, and really bringing the project along from start to finish. I mean, we're just about done now, so it's been really the joy of a lifetime to, be able to watch a bridge get built of this size. This isn't your typical, bridge project. This is 3 miles long, and it's in New York. New York has a rich history of bridge construction as it is. So to be able to, kind of etch your name into the history of New York bridge construction and say you did something this big, to kind of follow in the footsteps of, legendary engineers. You're talking about some of the great names in all of engineering came to New York and built bridges. So, we're in some really rarefied air, being a part of this project. And it's just been the greatest thrill that I could possibly have to be a part of it.
So are you one of the guys on the ground holding the blueprints, telling people what to do, or are you climbing up the bridges and with a rivet gun? I mean, you're an engineer, I understand, right. But, what...
Yeah, no, I'm the guy holding the plans, telling people what to do. Okay. I guess that's probably the easiest way to say it.
You're in more of the planning and engineering. I guess that's
we get the
comes down to.
Yeah, we get the design drawings from the designer, and we make sure the bridge gets built according to those drawings, and that's really what it comes down to. This is such a big project, but compared to the guys who are actually holding the rivet guns and, tying the rebar and pouring the concrete, I got an easy job. Yeah. And it's but
it's a lot of responsibility, though.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of responsibility. It's definitely not, it's not an easy job. But
it's not physical labor. It's not manual labor.
It's not physical labor, but it is mentally challenging, I think.
Yeah, that I can believe that.
It is a bit stressful. I will give you that. Yeah. But no, it's once you get into it and you get into the flow of it on a daily basis, it becomes quite fun, actually. I actually like the spotlight professionally. I never thought that I would ever say that, because I'm usually someone who kind of follows instead of leads. I'm one of those types. But in the course of this project, we've had visits from our governor on multiple occasions. Oh, wow. Yeah, we've had, in 2014, we had President Obama come because he was touting his infrastructure investment plan. In fact, the old Tappan Zee Bridge made it to the cover of, I think it was the 2015 budget. So this was a big project for him to kind of get his agenda going, and it's obviously the signature project of our current governor. So anytime that you get visits from a governor and a president, how many projects can say that?
Right. Very I guess few. They want to see where all that money's going, though. They gotta keep track of that kind of thing.
I guess, but it's also an enormous opportunity to showcase what people can do when we actually, put our minds to it and get together and start building stuff.
Right. Now, so on your channel, you have a lot of videos of the Tappan Zee Bridge. I know going back to before the construction even started, and then throughout the construction, as the construction has progressed. So you've been back and forth across that bridge over and over again. Yeah. On video, kind of chronicling the progress of the project.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, I have the privileged opportunity to see it from up close, actually on site, with the people who are building it on a day-to-day basis. But I also enjoy seeing the perspectives that the general public gets to see, which is the view while you're crossing the old span, or if you're just, on the riverbank checking it out from there. So what I did with those videos was I just wanted to kind of bring the public side of it to the channel and kind of show people how things have come along over the years. Like in the first video, you see there's nothing going on in the river, and it's just the old bridge there, right? Whereas today, if you look at a video from today, it's, you're driving on the new bridge, and the old bridge is, gradually being removed. So, it's quite interesting to watch the progression, over the last few years.
So the old bridge was called the Tappan Zee Bridge. The new bridge has a different name, though, doesn't it?
It does have a different name. This was a decision that was made earlier this year. At the time, the bridge didn't have an official new name. It was known. There were working titles for it. It was known generally as the New Tappan Zee Bridge. It was also known from a government level as the New York Bridge, because one of Governor Andrew Cuomo's initiatives is the New York. It's kind of like a political
rebranding of the
the New York. We're building a lot of stuff. Come check us out, that kind of thing. And so early in the summer, the decision was made to name the bridge for former Governor Mario Cuomo, who is our current governor's late father. He passed away a couple years ago. So the new bridge will be known as the Governor Mario Cuomo Bridge. Once everything is complete, once all the new signage gets put up, that's, where the new name will take effect.
And do you think 10 years from now they'll be calling it the Mario Cuomo Bridge, or do you think people will still be calling it the Tappan Zee?
I think it'll generally become known by its new name with time. I think there is always an adjustment period with that kind of stuff. But once all the new signage goes up and it says Mario Cuomo Bridge, what are you going to do? Like, people aren't going to know what the Tappan Zee is anymore necessarily.
Well, and I guess the younger generation will call it the Tappan Zee. I mean, it's just like, I still call the New Orleans airport Moisant. It hasn't been called Moisant in 20 years. It's the Louis Armstrong International Airport. But I always call it Moisant because that's what it was, throughout my childhood and for 50 years before that.
Certain people will continue to call it whatever they feel like calling it. But I do think the new name will catch on. I mean, it's not really a new name. It's a name for a new structure. So, and
it's not the same bridge. It's not like they took the old bridge and just changed the name of it. It is a different bridge.
In that respect, it's different from Armstrong Airport. Right? That was an existing facility that was renamed.
Right.
Whereas this is a new structure that is getting its own name. For example.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, recently you posted some videos from and
moving on.
Yeah, moving on. For anybody who doesn't know, people like us are called road geeks because
we like roads.
Yeah, we like roads. We like travel. We look at maps a lot. If there's a map in front of us, it can capture our attention. Dan's turning and looking at my big map of the New Orleans area and vicinity. And
I really like that map.
From Universal Map that somebody gave me a few years back, and it covers one of the walls in my office. But you had some videos, and I think, was it a live stream from a Road Geek gathering?
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk more about the live streams coming up. But what happened was, this was a Road Geek gathering, and I did a live stream for that. I don't think that had ever been done before, like a road meet that was broadcasted.
I don't think I've ever seen any videos of a gathering at all.
Yeah,
that I think about it.
Yeah, we usually don't do that, but this was the first time that I actually tried it, or anybody tried it.
I mean, I've been following. Well, AA Roads is a website that I've been following for probably 15 years, and I know Alex, the webmaster from AA Roads, was at that gathering.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of it on the website, and they have forums where they talk about doing these gatherings and, all over the country. And that's one of the places where people coordinate that kind of thing. But yeah, that was the first time I'd ever seen it on video. Mm-hmm. So I've never been to one of these gatherings. What happens? What do y'all do?
How to describe a road meet? Let's see. Basically, there's a general formula that we've figured out that works pretty well, and that is, we'll obviously agree on a location, and whoever is hosting will come up with an itinerary that'll keep us busy for a few hours at a time. We'll usually all get together in a central location. We'll probably have lunch together, and we'll just, talk about stuff. And usually somebody brings a crate full of maps that they're giving away. So there's usually a lot of interest around that. Whenever the guy with the maps shows up, that's when the party really starts. So, we have lunch and we just chat for a little while. And then we get out on the itinerary, whatever that happens to be for that location. There's usually a meet photo, like a group photo opportunity at some point, with all the attendees taking part. And then we end up usually circling back to our point of origin. People will go their own ways after that. There might be like a post-meet activity, depending on the circumstance, but that's pretty much it.
And y'all kind of just drive around like in a convoy?
Yeah. I think for the Delaware meet we had like 7 or 8 cars or something like that. It was a lot. Yeah, we had a lot of people there. That was one of the better attended meets that I've ever been to.
And I was kind of surprised there was a couple of girls there, wasn't there? And
yeah.
I know there was at least one, and of course everybody was dressed for cold weather, so it was kind of hard to tell who was who. But and that's one of those things that you'd think it would be just a bunch of guys doing, but there's some women that are interested in this kind of thing too.
Which I would never have thought myself.
Right, yeah.
You just never know who you're going to run into.
Yeah, no kidding.
Things, yeah.
Yep.
That's part of the fun.
So, in looking at your channel right now, you've been uploading stuff from Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I know you went to Ohio back in November. Mm-hmm. What's coming up next on Roadwaywiz?
So, as I said, the 8,036 number includes scheduled videos. So I've actually got videos scheduled out through, I think, March 4th or 5th, something like that. We're currently in the midst of documenting Interstate 80 across the states of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Indiana. And that will continue for another week or so, like another few days. And then we'll do some other miscellaneous stuff in Ohio to finish out the month. We'll do some other interstates in the Toledo area. I've got some stuff from Columbus, which is the state capital of Ohio, and Cincinnati area, which is where I really wanted to focus on the November trip. There will be some stuff from there. There'll also be content from new states, As I said, I visited a bunch of new ones, and we'll get those out of the way coming up in the next month also, with Michigan and Indiana making brief appearances, and then the southern suburbs of Cincinnati on the other side of the Ohio River are in Kentucky, so there's a lot of stuff from that state as well. So I'll be uploading that during that time period.
But you haven't made it out to North Dakota yet, have you?
I've not been to North Dakota yet. You just never know, though. I mean, if you asked me, 6 months before I went on my first New Orleans trip, would I ever make it to New Orleans, I probably would have said no. But that's part of the fun of doing this. You just kind of never know where you might decide to go, where you might end up.
Right.
Situations come up for travel or for business, and you might end up somewhere new that you never thought you would end up. Yeah. So, you learn to leave the door open to future opportunities. You never say never to anything.
Right.
I have not yet been to the West Coast, but that isn't to say that I won't make it out that way at some point.
Yeah, California is one of those places you could probably spend days in.
Weeks.
Well, yeah,
Depending
really.
on...
Yeah, because it's such a huge area, I mean... No, but I mean, back to North Dakota, for anybody that doesn't know, Carrie, the other voice of 504 Road Trips, who is sick with the flu, she's been laid up for about a week now, but she is originally from Dickinson, North Dakota, and she would appreciate seeing some video up there. So if you don't get there, we're going to get up there at some point and get some video around, what is that, I-94 that runs across North Dakota?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we're going to try and get some video up there. And
well, you know what? I got a flight from Houston to Philadelphia on Sunday, but maybe I'll change it to Dickinson.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'll beat you to it.
Yeah. Well, hey.
It'll just be a little cold, though.
Look, you'll have Carrie watching, for days if you start uploading North Dakota.
Oh, boy.
There's not a lot of video up there, so...
no, well, I wouldn't think so, no.
Yeah, there's just, not a whole lot of, I guess, well, there's not really much up there. It's it's an oil area, where they had the oil boom, and there's a lot of...
it's all flatlands and prairies, and that's about it for hundreds of miles.
You don't even really see trees. It's, and you have to do it during the summer, because if you go during the winter, all you see is snow.
Right.
And the only time I've been up there, it was 0 degrees, and it was cold, so...
Yeah, you're not really familiar with cold weather down there.
No, not at all. I went to New York one time in March and packed shorts and T-shirts, and a couple of pairs of jeans, thinking, it might get a little chilly at night, so I'm going to throw in a sweater and get up there, and it's 20 degrees. And I had to go buy clothes because I wasn't prepared at all for that.
Yeah.
We just don't expect it. I mean, right now it's hot.
Right.
We're in the 60s right now, so, and it's January 31st.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yep. So what are you working on now?
Well, I'm sitting in front of you doing an interview.
Well, obviously, yeah, and you're in New Orleans again, a year after your last trip to New Orleans. What have you been doing since you've been down this way?
Well, you thought you got rid of me last year, but I decided to come back. This year I decided I wanted to go somewhere south again because I wanted to, keep going with the theme of southern states and warmer weather in the winter, because you really can't film that much in the north, this time of year. Mm. Tell you the truth, my original pick for this year was Atlanta. I was not going to go where I ended up going, but I did a little more research on Atlanta, and I found that there's a lot of construction work going on the interstates there. That is due to wrap up in this coming construction season. So I thought, well, I'll put that on hold. Maybe that'll be next year's destination.
Yeah,
who knows?
After they get done with everything.
Yeah. So then I settled on Houston in southeast Texas. So I've been there for about a week or so. The trip overall is about 10 days. And filmed a bunch of stuff over the last few days. I'll be heading back there after I wrap up with you, but it's been quite a thrill to get down there and actually get into a really big city like Houston. It's the biggest city I've done for YouTube since I did New York 8 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Houston's the 4th largest city in our country. So really, this is a return to kind of my early days.
Right.
Having to plan for the enormous amounts of traffic and the freeways and all that. It really brings you back full circle to the early days of 2010 when I was trying to figure out how the heck I was going to film New York City. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle trying to plan these trips out, and you got to kind of figure out what fits where at what time and under what conditions, and obviously the weather is the big variable at times. That can really throw a wrench in things. Plus, people just driving off the road and crashing into things too.
Oh, wow.
But, but that stuff happens, anywhere. But no, it's been a pretty enjoyable trip so far. Had a lot of fun seeing a lot of new stuff, new interstates. I'm not adding any new states to this trip. I had delusional visions of grandeur early on. I thought I might be able to make it up to Arkansas, but that's not going to happen.
That's a pretty long haul from Houston.
Yeah, I would have needed to have perfect weather the entire trip in order to make that work, but that's not going to
And
happen.
you lost a day with the weather, didn't you?
Yeah, and the thing that was worse about it was that it was a weekend day, because usually when I go downtown, I do it on the weekends to avoid the traffic.
Right.
But so if you get a rain day on a weekend day, that kind of is your worst possible outcome. But, fortunately Sunday wasn't too bad, and I was able to crank out a bunch of stuff downtown that I think people really like. Houston's got a lot of great views, from the freeways. You got some great views of the downtown area.
Huh.
So I think people are really going to like those.
Yeah. I haven't been to Houston in probably 20 years, around Houston in 20 years, and I know things have changed drastically in the last 20 years, so I'll be interested to see what kind of video you got there.
There's a lot of existing freeways, a lot of freeways that are under construction right now. Interstate 69 has finally come to Texas, so there's a lot of interest in that. There's a couple of videos where you can actually see some of the construction work that's going on with that right now, southwest of the city. So there's a lot of interest in, the I-69 corridor nationwide, so I think some of these videos will play towards that. And then you got obviously some of the new construction going on with, the Grand Parkway, and then you've got all the interchanges that are being rebuilt. Every single interchange in Houston is a 4-level or 5-level stack, so those are amazing just to look at,
That's something we only have a few of in Louisiana.
Yeah. So I'm making sure to get a lot of footage of the interchanges, the ramp movements, because you can see a lot of stuff from the ramps too.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to make sure that people can see the perspectives, from the interchanges as well.
Yeah, I-69. I'm waiting until I-69 is complete to do I-69. I've been on it in Mississippi, and we kind of got video driving by it. But I'm waiting until it's complete. How long you think? How long you think before I-69 goes all the way from the southern tip of Texas to? Where does it even go? Where is the northern terminus of I-69 supposed to be?
The original I-69 runs from the Canadian border in Michigan, north of Detroit. And it kind of runs westward, then it curves southward into Indiana. And for a long time it ended in the suburbs of Indianapolis. And now there's really been a push to build another, cross-country interstate for truck traffic, because the traditional path that trucks take to the northeast is Interstate 81, which is now overloaded with heavy trucks. Mm-hmm. So there's the desire to build another corridor to kind of get you out of Texas and towards the Midwest and the northeastern states, where you can then link up with existing highways to take you from there. So the idea to extend 69 is really an economic one to improve truck traffic nationwide. As far as when it's going to be done, I mean, my grandchildren maybe will see it get completed. I mean, there's so much work that has to be done. I mean, Kentucky has moved along pretty well. Indiana's moving along, but there gets to a point north of Houston all the way up towards near Memphis where it's just going to take a long time to build that stretch. Like, I don't know that we'll see I-69 in Louisiana for decades, but
Yeah, because I guess it's got to cross Louisiana to get from Mississippi to Texas. Yeah. We drove part of the 69 corridor on US 59, but there's no sign that any of that's ever going to be interstate as of when we went there 6 months ago.
Right.
We did hit one of a loop in Texarkana that was numbered something 69. I can't remember what it was, but there's a loop in Texarkana that's a loop of 69, but it doesn't connect to 69 anywhere because it just doesn't exist up there yet.
Right. Yeah, you drove the 1.5 miles of Interstate 369.
That's right. So it's a spur.
Which if they ever build that out completely, it'll be like 130 miles.
Yeah.
So that alone is an enormous project that would take years to build. So you got all these little, pieces that have yet to slip into place, and then don't forget, you got to cross the Mississippi River, too.
Right.
They got to build a new bridge for that, and no one knows when that's going to get off the ground. So there's just a lot of planning and securing of funds that has to go on, and it's going to take years before we get anywhere close to saying that we're getting close to being done.
Right,
right. There's a lot still to do.
It just doesn't seem like it's something that'll be possible to be complete any time in our lifetimes at the rate that they're going, especially, they may get a good bit of it complete, but they haven't even started thinking about it in Louisiana yet, and that's a big gap in it that they're going to have to fill. Mm-hmm. Texas is moving along. Mississippi's got a little bitty section of it, and then it kind of merges with I-55. They cheated there, I think. I think they should have, they should have followed that a little bit further east, but that's I think that's going to be a long way away. Mm-hmm. So, what's your favorite area of the country to visit?
I don't know that I have a favorite region. I think I have favorite cities that I'm fond of, that I've enjoyed visiting over the years. I'm leaving New York out of it because I'm from that area. Mm-hmm. And I'm leaving Northern Delaware out of it because that's where I have family, so I'm prejudiced towards that, right? I really like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. I was only in Cincinnati for about 24 hours, but I really enjoyed my stay there. Philadelphia is a great town. The thing that those three have in common is that they are pretty notable bridge cities. Yeah. Pittsburgh has hundreds of them, and there are major river crossings in Cincinnati and in Philly, so that's the reason. So that's the reason why I like those three. The jury's still out on Houston. I think retroactively we'll see where that fits in with everything.
There's so much to take in Houston, that's the thing.
Oh, I know, yeah. Another city I really like is Jacksonville, Florida. Believe it or not, yeah. Jacksonville is a very northeastern city in the respect that it's got the river, the St. Johns River that flows through it, and there are a lot of bridges across the river, and the downtown area kind of feels northeastern to me for some reason. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I kind of feel like that's a familiar setup to me that I enjoy a lot. And I'm not just saying this because you're sitting across from me, but I like New Orleans a lot.
Yeah.
Something about New Orleans that appeals to a lot of people. I don't know that people could, pinpoint what it is, but New Orleans is a city that appeals to a wide range of people, and,
Well, it's different from everywhere else.
Yeah.
People come here and it's not like home, so everybody kind of has that feeling.
It's so different that you see things here that you don't see anywhere else.
Right.
So, even from a roads perspective, if you're into roads, if you're not into roads, for whatever reason, people enjoy coming here, and I'm one of those people.
So have you traveled outside of the United States on any of your video trips?
Yeah, actually, I've made 3 different trips outside the U.S. up to Canada, which to me doesn't sound like much of an accomplishment because I live in New York and the border's only a few hours away by car. But in 2015, I did a couple of trips up to the province of Quebec to explore Montreal and Quebec City. And in 16, I did a long weekend trip up to Toronto and Southern Ontario. So I was able to tackle a lot of stuff in both of those provinces. Quebec was actually quite interesting. You feel more like you're in a foreign country when you're in Quebec compared to the other provinces in Canada because it's francophone.
Yeah, that's what I hear. It's way different from the rest of Canada.
Yeah, and all the signage is in French and all that stuff. So, but I actually think that if you're from New Orleans and you understand, the French lingo and all that, you probably would get a charge out of Quebec.
Yeah, we really don't, though.
Yeah. Okay.
My great-grandmother spoke French. That's the last one in our family, and she died back in the 80s. So, and it's kind of, the language has died off a lot in New Orleans. There's not too many people left that speak French.
Yeah.
So it's foreign to us, just like, it is to you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and certainly it was kind of off the wall for me, crossing the border for the first time. I got, the exhilaration of being in another country, and, that was very exciting to do those kinds of trips where you're in not just an unfamiliar place, but you're in another country. You're filming the same stuff, you're filming the same way. It doesn't really change how you plan the trip, but being in another country does change certain aspects of the trip that you go on, as far as cell phone use and currency exchanges and all that other stuff that you got to worry about whenever you travel abroad. But I found that a lot of the roads in Canada were at least just as, or in a lot of cases, even more interesting than the roads in the U.S. There were some great drives across Canada. Yeah, the city of Montreal is outstanding. Toronto has a facility known as the Gardiner Expressway, which runs right through downtown. You have skyscrapers on either side of you running on an elevated highway through the center of the city.
Wow.
It's one of the great urban drives in the world. So I got a great thrill out of being able to film that and add that to my repertoire on YouTube. And it was just great to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and try something kind of off the wall. Not many people who do this kind of road video stuff do stuff north of the border. So it was kind of neat to, get out there and try something a little different. And I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Americans, we don't travel outside of the country like people in Europe. They go on summer vacation, they go to a different country. And I think a lot of people in Europe don't understand why we don't do that. But when we go to another state, that's like somebody from the UK going to France on vacation. We go from, I go from Louisiana to Florida. That's just like going from the UK to France. And so when we travel from state to state, it's very similar to Europeans traveling from country to country.
That is true.
Just because we have such a huge area. But you are close to Canada. I've been to Canada several times, always never more than, I don't think I've ever gotten more than 50 miles from the U.S. border. But just about everything in Canada is within 50 miles of the U.S. border. I think 80% of the population of the country is within some number of miles. It may not be 50, it might be 100, but it's all pretty close because once you get up into those northern latitudes, it's not really conducive to human life up there. It gets kind of cold when you get way up there. I felt that way about North Dakota. But,
we're back to North Dakota.
Yeah, and even New York. I mean, I've experienced the New York winter, and it's cold.
Yeah, the Adirondacks in New York sure get cold.
Yeah.
But getting back to Canada real quick, most of the population in that country lives along the corridor between Windsor, which is across the river from Detroit, along a line up Highway 401 through Ontario up into Quebec, southern Quebec. So if you cover a lot of that stretch of that highway and its connecting highway in Quebec, the A40 expressway, or is it A20? I forget offhand which one it is. But anyway, if you cover a wide swath of that stretch, you've covered most of the major cities and most of where the population is in that country. So you can really, get a sense for what travel is like in Canada just by, visiting that few 100-mile stretch of highway.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always wanted to travel the Trans-Canada Highway that runs the whole width of the country. That would be an interesting drive, but it would take a long time.
And for most of the trip, you wouldn't see much of anything.
Right, because I know there's a lot of areas you go through where there's just nothing.
Right,
and I think it's just 2-lane highway. It's not even like limited access type, what we think of as interstates, because there's not really anything there, so there's no reason to have multiple lanes or anything like that. But yeah, Canada, I do find Canada to be an interesting place. The parts that I've been to are not much different from any other place in the United States because it's been limited to, Niagara Falls, Toronto, that, and the area in between there. And that's not a whole lot different from the U.S.
Yeah, if you go over the border to Ontario from either New York or Michigan, there are places that you can go where it doesn't feel like you're in another country.
No.
A lot of it is very similar to the U.S. in terms of, just the way the roads are laid out, the signage. It's very easy to find your way around.
Yeah.
So
other than the 100 mile an hour or 100 kilometer per hour speed limit, you got to remember to switch over to that metric on
don't go 100 miles
on
an
the
hour.
car because they get kind of mad if you're going 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, right.
The Mounties will come get you.
Yeah.
So, does road geekery consume your entire life? Being that you work on bridges and you do all these videos, or is there anything else, any other hobbies you have, or is this it?
Well, I've always kind of had an interest in photography.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know really what the reason for that is. I got into it when I was in college, and I started photographing. I went to college in the Buffalo area, Buffalo, New York. There's a lot of old urbex kind of landscapes there.
Right.
So I really got into photographing that kind of stuff, and I just started getting into it, and it's been a passion of mine that's kind of been in the background for a number of years, but whenever I'm free and able to, I will get out my camera and see what's out there. I also recently bought a drone, which I'm still learning how to fly.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of getting into the aerial aspect of it now. So that's my little toy that I'll be playing around with this year. And I think that the video work that I do is kind of an offshoot of that also. Video, photography, they're all kind of similar in some respects. So it's another way to kind of bring out that side of my personality, I suppose. I'm also kind of a bit of a musician. I played the piano for a number of years when I was a kid.
Huh.
Wasn't never really that good at it. Picked up the cello when I was in 5th grade, I think. Yeah, 5th grade. And played that all the way up through high school. Kind of lost touch with it in college, and haven't really gotten back to playing it regularly. But I still do kind of keep in touch with that side of me as well. I'm really big into classical music, by the way.
Yeah.
Because I'm a classy guy like that.
Well, you're not going to be playing. You're not going to be playing headbanger music with the cello. So I guess you got to kind of have to be into classical music a little bit if you play the cello.
Yeah, you kind of have to know a thing or two about that anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So the cello is still kind of a part of my life. I do get it out every once in a while and play around with it. My orchestra from high school still has reunions every once in a while. I think they do one every couple of years, so I always try to attend those whenever those come up. Gives me an excuse to dust it off and relearn how to play.
So y'all actually get together and play? When y'all have the reunions? No kidding.
All us people who forgot how to play over the years, we get together and we get on stage and we try to make it sound good. And, it sounds halfway decent anyway.
Huh.
With me in the cello section, maybe not as good as it could, but anyway, it's still a lot of fun to get together with people that you went to school with, your old teachers.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite teachers I've ever had were music teachers, believe it or not. And this is coming from an engineer who had a lot of really bright, smart people. I'm not saying music teachers are dumb. I'm just saying people from an engineering background are really scientifically oriented, and they have that kind of connection with things. So, those are people that are really brilliant, but they weren't my favorite teachers.
Yeah.
My favorites were the ones who brought out the musical side in me.
Well, yeah, and that's a different function of the brain, and people who are musically inclined, their brains work differently from people who aren't. And, there's... People don't realize it, even uneducated people who play music, you're doing complicated math in your head. Your brain is doing complicated math when you are doing music and you may not even realize it, but it's, you know, it's like speaking a foreign language or you know, it's not something that you just do. It's something that you have to have a talent for, and you have to be able to. It's just something your brain has to be able to do. I don't know how to describe it. I played piano from a young age, and lost interest at some point, and I'm so out of practice now that I can't really do much in front of a keyboard. But you know,
there are some similarities between, you know, from an analytical standpoint, between playing music and analyzing, you know, calculations and structures. There's I'm not smart enough to tell you exactly how the brain works between those two, but there is some similar stuff going on there.
Yep. So you've been doing live streams. I've noticed, well, of course, you did one today in New Orleans, and I was actually in that live stream. I was standing out there watching on my phone, getting ready to hold up a sign, and all of a sudden I hear the horn tooting as you drove by, and you were about 30 seconds ahead of the video, so I completely missed it. You can kind of see me for a split second. But you've been doing all these live streams. Today was only the second one I've been able to catch live. I've gone back and watched some of them afterwards. But how's that going? Are you getting a lot of viewers, or you know what's the deal with that, and how's that work?
Yeah, the live stream feature was something that I came up with not long ago as another means of communicating with and connecting with my audience. It was just another way that I could bring what I do to people in an on-demand fashion. And it became feasible when I switched over to an unlimited data plan from my phone.
Oh yeah, that helps a lot.
When I do the live streaming, I'm filming it on my phone. I don't use the traditional camera. I'm using my smartphone, which actually films in higher resolution than the traditional camera. So it actually ends up working out pretty well.
And do you duct tape it to your windshield? Or,
shipping
tape? You do the same thing.
Same thing.
No kidding.
Yeah. It's one big... In fact, I got my car out here right now, and it's one big duct tape-filled mess right now. I got to clean out. I'm going to return the car to Houston coming up in a few days, and they're going to be like, what the hell was this guy doing with this car this whole time? But anyway, so the live stream today, and in general, when I do live streams, I have a general concept of the area I want to explore and show people. So the theme for a New Orleans live stream, which by the way I think was the first one that I've done outside of the northeastern U.S.
Yeah.
So
everything else has been around home.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a lot easier to plan live videos when you're not running around in an area you're not familiar with, and I think that was kind of a big obstacle to doing it back in November when I was out in Ohio, and for the first week of this trip I didn't do any because I was still trying to kind of learn where everything was in the city, and it's stressful enough when you're trying to figure out where you are and do the videos you're obliged to do anyway for YouTube. So that's why it took a while for that to get off the ground on this particular trip. Yeah, it's just another way to connect with people. And I find that depending on when you're streaming, you'll get certain numbers of people watching. So, like, middle of the day on a weekday isn't really a good time to do one because everybody's at work.
Right.
So you can't really rely on getting, 24 people to watch.
Right.
Usually I get about that number on weekends if I do a stream during the day. And it varies too. People will tune in for a couple of minutes, or, I've had people tune in and watch the whole thing from beginning to end. So it's kind of a way that people can tune in and see where I'm at, and they can kind of get their fill. And if, they feel like sticking around, they can. And usually they'll see stuff that they've already seen, in my traditional, video output. But on this trip, it's an interesting opportunity because you get to see stuff that hasn't really made it to YouTube yet.
Right.
That's the case of today's live video.
Yeah, because it's going to be months before at least a month before you post any of these, huh?
Yeah, and I'm going to be studying for an exam in April, so I'm not even sure that I'll upload that much, in the months of March and April. But,
right.
Yeah, so it'll be at least a couple of months before I do that. But, yeah, so they're fun to do, but I usually do have a concept of where I want to go, but I kind of do a lot of it on the fly, too. Like, I'll see how I'm feeling, I'll see how much time the stream is going for. I usually try to keep it to about an hour.
Yeah.
And so today, just to give you an example, I didn't know that I was going to do a drive-by where you were until about 10 minutes before I did it.
Right.
I thought, well, I got all the interstates in the city covered, so I might as well do a bridge crossing, because I usually try to incorporate a bridge crossing into one of the streams. So I zipped across the CCC over here and came over this way, and I thought, well, I gotta turn around at some point anyway, so I'll just, I'll honk at you for a few seconds, So, yeah, and recently I've also upgraded some of my streaming equipment as far as getting a signal, so I think that, it'll be a little less blocky in the future. The early videos were kind of lousy at times.
Yeah, they would break up. You could tell when you were hitting a bad reception area.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that what I've done recently kind of puts an end to that. I mean, I wouldn't want to do streams out in the middle of nowhere anyway. But if you get to an area with bad reception, which they happen from time to time, you want to make sure you have a good signal so that it's watchable.
Right.
That's the big thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I noticed today, and I set my YouTube player on my computer to 720p, so it would stay at 720p because sometimes my internet connection is kind of slow. But once it, buffered and was able to keep up with it, there was no blockiness like I saw in some of the early live streams. Mm-hmm. Now, you leave the live streams up, so it's not like they disappear once you shut them down. You can go back and watch all of them.
Yeah, right now that's what I'm doing. Whether that continues to be my policy as we go forward, I think remains to be seen. But I've actually found that people are going back and watching them in retrospect.
Yeah.
And they're some of the more popular videos I've done.
Yeah.
Because when I started filming videos, I wanted to keep them to no more than 10 minutes. Because I saw them as a reference tool also. Mm-hmm. So if people are looking for a specific area on a highway, they're not going to want to go through a video that's a half hour or more long to try to find it. You know what I mean? So keeping it to 10 minutes meant that it was narrowed down quite a bit as far as, the ground that was covered. But then it's also, I think, I always used to think that it was more watchable to keep a video to 10 minutes or less. Because people would want to watch it from beginning to end, for example. But I've actually found that recently that isn't necessarily the case. Some of my extended videos that are like 15 minutes or longer are actually some of my more popular ones.
Right.
So it's all kind of a learning experience to see what your followers like, what they gravitate towards. I think generally, my mission from day one has been to document cities. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily interstates.
Right.
I'm not out there, trying to document every mile of interstate. Yeah. There are other channels out there that are
you got cross-country roads and Freeway Gym that do all that.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to, tread on what those guys are trying to do, but I do think that my followers gravitate towards the urban stuff, so I try to put a lot of emphasis on that, and that's why I'm back here on the Gulf Coast doing Houston, for example. And then, you come up with itineraries. I mean, I usually film stuff that I would want to see.
Right.
So I don't really get into, requests and all that other stuff from people. It's just not really in my nature to ask people what they want to see to begin with.
Right.
But I've also found over the years that I think a lot of the stuff that my viewers have wanted to see is the same stuff that I've wanted to see.
Yeah.
So it kind of has worked out that way in a funny way. That we've been able to see these new areas together.
Yeah.
We've been able to explore these areas. And I've gotten quite a charge out of being able to share something that I originally thought was just a means of backing up my files so that I wouldn't lose them in the next hard drive crash. Going from that to where I am today, it's actually quite astonishing to me.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about it for the questions. It's always a pleasure to have you down here, and we're going to get up to New York.
Hey, don't be a stranger. Come on up to New York.
We're going to get. It's been 2.5 years, going on 3 years since we've been up there. We like the city, and that's not so much a road trip thing because we don't drive when we go to New York City. Although one day I'd like to just rent a car, and maybe get some video up there. But but yeah, we're gonna definitely have to get up to New York and.
Come see the bridge.
Yeah, we got to see the bridge. That's one thing,
That's the hot ticket item.
If we get up there, we're gonna have to have you just come pick us up and drive us across the bridge or something.
Yeah, well, that could be arranged, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I've actually gotten a lot of requests for people asking to do just that.
Yeah.
Whether it's family or friends or all that stuff. So I'll put your name on the list.
Yeah. Yep. Well. If we go up there, it's going to be during the summertime. We are not going up there during the winter.
You don't want to go up? No.
I want to be able to wear shorts and a T-shirt and not have to worry about freezing to death up there.
That's good. Yeah. It's a good idea.
Well, we're going to wrap it up. We thank you for coming down. We thank you for the interview. And
hey, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's always great to see a familiar, friendly face when I come to a place that's 1,500 miles away from home. You guys do great work yourself, and you've got a great thing going with what you're doing. You've always been very generous to me, giving me information and, accommodating me, and it's just really thoughtful of you to do all that stuff, so I appreciate that. And, just keep it up,
Yeah.
People ask me what, they ask me for advice about starting YouTube channels, and I always don't really have a lot of good advice because I never really thought about, starting a YouTube channel when I was starting my video work. The channel wasn't really meant to serve the purpose that it serves today. But I would just say, whether it's to you or to anybody else out there who's looking to start something, just find your niche. Find something that is different that no one else has done, and take advantage of that. And, make yourself unique. Make yourself be seen. I found that all of my subscribers all subscribe to all the other channels also. Right. So there's no competition here.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah. Everybody's looking for a different slant on things, I think. And I appreciate the channels that kind of go out of their way to be different and present themselves very well. And I think you guys are on the right track to getting there. So keep it up.
We're not showing any sign of slowing down. We're getting ready to. Mardi Gras is coming up, and that means 4 days off of work, in a row.
Gee, I wonder what you're
Saturday through Tuesday. So
I wonder what you'll be doing.
Yeah, we're going to be on the road. Assuming that there's not going to be horrible weather or something, we're going to be traveling for 4 days. So we'll be. We'll be finishing up our I-22 series very shortly. It looks like we've only got a couple of videos left because there's not much left of it. So that'll probably be over with next week. I'm going to try and shoot some New Orleans stuff over the weekend, and that'll be the filler between, what I'm doing right now and, whatever we film during Mardi Gras, and then we'll start a new series. We're hoping to extend I-10. Because being that I-10 is the major interstate running through New Orleans, we'd like to have as much of that as possible. I'd like to get it all the way to San Diego at some point. Is that where it goes, San Diego? Or L.A.? L.A., yeah.
Yep.
And then the other way to Jacksonville one day, and Highway 90, the same thing. But we're going to be doing something probably along those lines. Unless we have to avoid bad weather, and we'll be looking at that, we may go somewhere else. We might head north. There's no telling at this point, because you can't really plan that kind of thing a month in advance down here, because the weather changes so fast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
but keep your mind open. That's what I think I mentioned that earlier, that you never know where you're going to end up.
No.
You never know what you're going to want to film.
No, that's true. And there's trips that we've planned that we didn't take just because it wasn't logistically possible. We wound up going somewhere else, and those videos are all already on the channel. Because we couldn't go west because the weather was bad over there, so we went east, and that's how a lot of our stuff gets done. And we just have to make the plans really quick and try not to book hotels too far in advance so that we can, we don't get stuck with a reservation somewhere where we can't go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
We'll see as we get closer to Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is February 13th this year, so we'll be traveling from probably the 9th to the 13th.
Yeah, the parade season starts in a couple of days, so I'm glad that I was able to get in and out before that. Yeah.
The parades have already started.
They've already started, yeah, but I guess they're going to start in earnest coming up.
It's starting this Saturday, this weekend. Yeah, this is when they really start kicking in.
Yeah.
So, and I might do some video of a parade. Just, we have a local one, and I might try to catch some video of it if the weather's good, just so people can see the suburban Mardi Gras. I'm not going down into the French Quarter during Mardi Gras.
You're not?
No.
Oh, come on, man.
And, like I said, we usually try to just get out of town for Mardi Gras. After you've been living here a certain amount of time, you don't really,
That's true. You don't even think
unless
about
you're a diehard Mardi Gras person, you've seen it all. There's nothing more to see.
Yeah.
So we get out of town for Mardi Gras.
Yeah.
But anyway, that should just about wrap it up. The video accompanying this is video shot by Dan. That's what you've been watching for the past
however long this
45
is.
minutes or so, maybe over an hour at this point.
It's all good stuff.
Roadwaywiz video, and make sure and check out his channel, Roadwaywiz, and subscribe. And
you can subscribe to Roadwaywiz WNY too if you want, but I'm not going to check the messages there, so don't leave me anything.
Yeah, that channel's kind of old stuff too now.
Yeah, it's old stuff, and it's all like Western New York stuff that nobody cares about. So,
well, if somebody's interested in Western New York, they're going to look at it. So,
come to Buffalo and see all the snow on the ground.
Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up, post a comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos come out, share and follow us on social media, and join us for our next 504 road trip, and make sure and check out Roadwaywiz.
And come to North Dakota and click that bell icon.
Smash that